Evening, everyone. I'm here in the National Railway Museum because the title of the episode tells you that, so you know it. But I'm in a particular. I'm in my hallowed space. I'm here in the warehouse, aka the North Shed. Behind me here is 84001, the gorgeous. In fact, let's stand a bit further away so you can just see this gorgeous machine here. Look at it, isn't it beautiful? Two fun things because. I'm just going to go and stand here so you can see the double arrows behind me. You know, there's 84001, marvellous. There is a point to this video, but behind it, you see the double arrows over there. Look at this machine, this glorious machine. Two things, not just 84001, but also a box that we just noticed that says Fragile on it. This is an N-gauge model St Pancras. Come down here, look. There's an N-gauge model St Pancras. I wonder if that'll ever end up anywhere. Anyway, my waffling aside, we're here for... To talk about the future of the museum. So I'm doing two records today. You've already, a few weeks ago, I think, had the chat with me and Bob, which was lovely. I'm about to record that, so I'm excited for whatever that is going to be like. It'll be a chat with Bob, it'll be brilliant. But we're here to talk about the Railway Museum. It says Railway Museum. This episode is going to be about the future of the Railway Museum. A little sort of idea of what's in store for the museum, a bit about Vision 2025. I'm also going to have a little walk around the innovation platform, of which there will be 4 seasons. And I'll talk about that later rather than doing that now. That's it. Without further ado, welcome to tonight's Rail Natter. And as the in-city 225 fades away, not the 125, which is over there, nor Mallard, which is down here. Look, it's the front of Mallard. Nor Duchess of Hamilton, that's over here, or the Shinkansen, which is over here. Because the Great Hall, it's wonderful. Also the 31 that's over there. Love this place. Yes, so sorry, it's an NRN episode. It's all very quiet because well, it's not very quiet. Sorry, that's exactly not what it is. It's really loud. So I'm sorry about the noise. That's because they're doing things. They're making new things happen. Because over here, if I kind of do this, is where they're doing the work for what will be the Bramwell Gallery, the Wonder Lab. Now, adenoidal angry people are upset about the Wonder Lab, and there have been some discussions. And yes, it's a shame that the active workshop is going, but there's reasons for that. For me, the Wonder Lab taps into a really important, this all makes some sense, I'm sure, when I tell you what the 2 main features of the episode are going to be. Wonder Lab is a key part of providing a kind of a route in for young people to give context to what's going on here. So it's not just that there's a bunch of dusty stuff in a room, which I'm sorry is you know, the Railway Museum's challenge has always been that it's less than the sum of its parts. It's a collection, but it isn't a museum in the sense that it's not actually interpreting what these things are and providing proper context, the story of the railways, the 400 years of the railways in the UK and more. I've spotted Bob doing his party trick, which is 400 years in 40 minutes earlier with some new staff. So Bob, brilliant Bob, looking forward to that chat, which you've already seen. I'm sure it was great. Anyway, so Wonder Lab's down there, they've stopped drilling. Wonder Lab will be in there and will be a kind of an interpretation to talk about the engineering, the not just engineering, but all the other things that represent the modern railway and how the modern railway works. So, the science interpretation of like physics, chemistry, all these things that kind of how railways work. So there's stuff about aerodynamics and there's stuff about there's some nice art installations in there as well. I think it'll be an important part of making this museum a place that, it should not just be a collection, a static collection. It needs to be a vibrant space that people are interested in coming and engaging with, particularly young people, particularly some of the demographics that don't engage with the museum necessarily. We want to bring people in because we want to tell that story. Anyway, today's episode is going to have 2 bits. So we're going to talk about the future of the museum. We're going to talk about Vision 2025, but that's the second thing we're going to do. Second thing. First thing we're going to do is go and look at the innovation platform, spend some time on the innovation platform, talk about what it is, poke at some stuff, look at Knoll Dolphin's plastic OLE mast, which you can see over there. You can see it. It's next. It's currently being framed by the slice of channel. Talk about the innovation platform, and then we got the pleasure of a chat with Charlotte Kingston, who is head of development, engagement, communications. That might be right, that might be wrong. She's the head of deck, one half of Ant and Deck. Funny enough, there is an ant in the museum. Shout out to Ant Cools. Anyway, I don't know what I'm on about. Waffling. Part 1 is going to be innovation platform. A little run around that. Part 2, chat with Charlotte. So, part 1, go. So, as promised, segment 1 is, well, actually it's not the HST, although here is the HST next to me. It does look marvellous, the flying banana looking tremendous. You know, you don't, my head right next to my head next to the HST. Oh, yeah, it's marvellous. Also, slightly unnerving to be the height, this is the height that it is if you stand next to the rails. Anyway, I digress. Also the horns, the two-tone horns are in there behind me if I look straight in. There's some horns. Also 253001. Anyway, I digress. We're here to talk about the innovation platform. And the reason we're talking about the innovation platform is, there are 4 seasons, which the first was about kind of automation and kind of pilotless type stuff. The second is this one, it's about decarbonisation. The next 2, one of them's about cities and one of them's about communities. So they kind of got these themes, and within those themes, I'm going to start at the other end actually, although this is, okay, you know what, I'm going to start right here. The first thing is you've got Noel Dolphin and Fura and Frey's GRP OLE mast, there it is, looking fab. Lighter, easier, less carbon. This sort of stuff is a vision for the way that interpretation might look for the museum. It's like a bit of a sample of that style, which I like because it's picking up people. It's talking about people. So there's Helen Simpson from Porterbrook, she's a genius. Got a nice picture in front of the Shinkansen there. Talking about what, you know, the people who innovate, but also who just kind of make the railways work. I like those little profiles you've got here. So this whole thing here, before I start talking about it, here's the innovation platform. It's kind of these modular bits here. So you can see quite literally platforms. And they allow for showcasing things. So, you know, for example, here you've got these plastic bottles kind of making a point, because on the other side, if I wander over here, you can see a composite sleeper. Composite sleeper with some nice Pan 11s. Nice Pan 11s. These have replaced softwood timber, timber sleepers. They are now the new standard. So here you can see this Psycup brand, and they've got these sort of to make sure the ballast beds in. They've got these sort of bitties on them. These are more carbon friendly because for a variety of reasons, the lightness, the fact they're recycling plastics, but also what's quite nice. So you've got the Psycup sleeper here, marvellous. Plastic bottles thrown away, you can recycle those. Another thing is this context of history, looking back and forward, and this is a key theme for, the Railway Museum, as I think I've alluded to many times, is less than the sum of its parts. It's a collection, but it doesn't. You don't get that context. So things like today's ideas, tomorrow's rail is an innovation platform. There's a nice video playing, showing things, but also some of the context of, like, here's revolutionising freight, to talk about how we revolutionise the freight industry, and part of that for decarbonisation. Talk about decarbonisation. Importantly, the museum here talking about decarbonisation in a wider context of not just how do you stop the emissions from the trains, from these lunking great things, but how do you decarbonise transport more broadly. It's nice that it's sat next to the Slicer Channel Tunnel as well, by the way, which is always fun. So behind us here we have the Hydroflex, one of the Hydroflex fuel cells. So hydrogen, so we like about hydrogen, but it is an innovation. It's interesting to have it here and absolutely merits its position within a museum, talking about the future of decarbonised railways. So this is a good example. So let's go over to the big bit. You've got here you've got some photovoltaic film here explaining the ability to put it on a sign and generate electricity. You've got, what's this? You've got some nice sort of books talking about the company. You've got sort of concrete and carbon. You've got some 3D printed concrete here. Let me stand here and show you this. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. But anyway, the point is that you've got all of this, 3D printed concrete. You've got the overall idea about decarbonising, power infrastructure, environment, and talking about this. And here you can see some of the things that we've got on the innovation platform. You've got autonomous technology. You've got decarbonisation, smart cities, communities. Thanks to everyone who's got involved in that at the bottom there. There's all the acknowledgements. These renew every 6 months. This one is until June this year, so you can come and see. And then the part of it is it's not just, it's here also sampling some of those interactive display ideas to bring this museum forwards to make the best of what it has. It's not about replacing all the existing collection with stuff. It's about making the best of what the museum has, improving the interpretation of, the individual items, individual objects, vehicles have had fantastic interpretation, but the interpretation as a whole, the big picture tying everything together has never quite been there, because it's a challenging site, difficult to Tetris things around, as you can hear them doing the work over in the Wonder Lab over there as they kind of do the assemblies. Also, the newest, one of the newest trains in here is the 1990. It's 1990. What is it? 90. I can't read that because it's a bit dingy. 95. But this train is from the very early 90s. It's about my age. Anyway, while I stand here underneath Knowles and Fuhrer and Frey's OLE mast, you can see out my nostrils. I'm going to then jump to give us some more context about what this is, what the point of it is. We're going to jump to segment 2 with Charlotte Kingston from the National Rail Museum. Take it away now. Go. Charlotte, hello. Firstly, hello everyone. Charlotte Kingston, who is currently the head of DEC, which is... Oh, I had it in my head. It's develop. No.
Would you like me to help?
Go on. What's DEC?
Design. Exhibitions. Communications.
Design, exhibitions, communications. Thanks, Charlotte.
Pleasure.
I've just been down meandering around innovation platform. I haven't. I've been about to film that bit, and I'm quite excited by that for a variety of reasons. Firstly, it's a connection to the current industry that the museum has always been wanting, but it's never quite kind of, for all sorts of reasons, not facilitated. So innovation platform is really good for that. But also it's a bit of it's sort of a stepping stone into kind of what's next for the museum. But tell us about innovation platform. How did it come about, and what are you intending to learn from it? And tell us about innovation platform.
Absolutely. So when I joined the museum in 2018, the first project that I was asked to deliver was a temporary exhibition about testing in the modern rail industry, and it was the first time the Railway Museum had really kind of put out there that we were interested in the modern railway or in the contemporary railway. From the way you see our collections, we are quite rightly proud of our amazing heritage vehicles. We've got absolutely tons of those. They're really extraordinary, but we know that kind of actually today's railways are actually really relevant to the problems and challenges of engineers of the past. So it made a lot of sense at that moment to kind of start talking about the modern rail industry in our public programme. So testing came and went. It was popular. We had lots of examples of contemporary rail innovations and interesting cross-disciplinary.
It was great. It was really interesting, quite different. It was like, ooh.
We had soil testing. We had something about Crossrail. We had the IEP cab. So we had some really nice innovations in there. But that was kind of like toe in the water. And then I thought, okay, well, we've got a changing site. We're going to be probably opening and closing different parts of our museum. Lots of constraints on our time. No guarantee that we're going to have access to the temporary exhibition gallery. But we want to continue telling these stories, coupled with the ambition in the future of building a new Railway Futures Gallery at the heart of Central Hall, which is our flagship new building, opening in 2025. Absolutely stunning, gorgeous building, and this amazing new gallery about the future of railways and the challenges that the railways can help us solve about our future as well. So that was where the innovation platform came in.
So you had that. You were like that. We've got facing that direction. Just had testing.
Yep.
That. Okay, there's a stepping stone here. There's something to be done here.
Exactly, and we knew that a lot of our partners were interested in seeing us do things, and we knew. So I thought, well, okay, well let's pop something up. And actually, originally the project was sort of I don't know, jokingly called the fourth plinth, because it was like the fourth plinth in Trafalgar. So it's going to be Trafalgar Square. It's going to be one plinth, and we change what happens on it, and we test different ideas. And actually, that testing piece of it, actually testing what does it mean to exhibit these things, because they're challenging things to show. They're often not the most visually appealing, especially when you compare it to something like...
There's a composite sleeper down there that I've just showed you. It's like... You've got to do some curatorial magic to make. You've got to do some interpretation magic to like make that make sense to someone who's looking at it. It's like, why am I looking at a piece of a bin? What is this?
Exactly, and there's lots of wires and tubes and things that sort of look technical but don't immediately kind of spark a joy in your heart, unlike say Mallard or Duchess of Hamilton or something like that. So actually, it was about what interpretive methods do we need to use to bring these to life, and also can we test those with our audiences, test those with our partners. How far are our partners willing to let us go to tell some of these things things that still have intellectual property associated with them. Maybe they're protected inventions. All of those sorts of concerns. We also need to think really boringly about the kind of museum behind the scenes things about like loan objects and what kind of contracts. Usually we borrow from other museums who understand those processes. What does it mean to borrow from HS2, for example? That's a different kind of conversation.
So it sounds like as much as there is a physical thing and some physical things in amongst there, actually the two things the one thing it sounds like it's testing is relationships. It's like it's testing relationships with the audience, but also testing relationships with your partners in providing stuff, information, technical support. It sounds like it's kind of a testing of relationships more necessarily than even the physical elements there.
Definitely that's a part of it. I mean, who knows whether what we're presenting now in the innovation platform will be relevant or right for the Futures Gallery when it opens in 2025, but what we know is that this is about a way of working that we really needed to we needed to work differently in order to make this a core part of our public programme.
Absolutely. And so that leads us kind of into talking about Vision 2025. For the people, hello everyone, for the people watching or listening, what is Vision 2025 for starters? What's your kind of elevator pitch or your way that you kind of describe it to everyone? Tell us about Vision 2025.
So Vision 2025 is the museum's journey to become the world's railway museum, and the phrase I often use is globally relevant and open for all. And at the heart of that is about being about the past, present and future of the railways. We've been great at the past, we've as we've talked about, we're touching on the present, we've got lots of projects that are kind of launching that really speak to the kind of here and now challenges, but the piece that was always missing was this bit about the futures and kind of looking to the future and how rail can play a part in shaping that future, being part of that future. We know that sustainability and the climate crisis are major global challenges, and still rail is still the most fundamentally sustainable way of mass moving people and goods, and so we know that railways have to be a part of that greener future, so we need to make that part of our story. And there's many other innovations that kind of go alongside it. It's not just about the environment, but
that's one example of like a core thing that
exactly. And that's about being globally relevant and open for all, and making that really relevant and accessible.
And the interrelation, but you can hear that they're doing the work. This is happening now, by the way. Hence the noises. Like this stuff is happening. There was a disc cutter earlier, and there's stuff moving. There's a crane. It's happening now. Station Hall is. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about what's physically happening right now, but Station Hall is under wraps. There's all sorts going on. So it very much like it's contextualizing everything. So it's not just each of those is not in a silo either. Like the future-facing stuff puts context into what was that view if you step back 200, 300, 400 even years, and what was the view of what that and all of these things feed into each other.
Absolutely.
So that's quite exciting.
One of the things we're sort of exploring a little bit with the Futures Gallery development, we've got the most wonderful curator working on it, and he's sort of looking at actually some of these challenges are things that railway engineers have been trying to solve for decades, for hundreds of years, and so are there pieces from the collection that we might put into conversation with something else? So we're sort of just
shout out to Rob Scargill. Hi Rob. I was chatting with Rob this morning. It's been one of those. It's been a museumy day. Exactly that tying in, and like I think people. I'm on the advisory panel for the Futures Gallery. It's very exciting. I'm not going to say anything more on that because I've no idea where the Chinese walls are supposed to be. But it's exciting. It's very exciting, and that context, as Rob's laid out, actually both of you have laid out, but Rob running with it it's about that tying in those challenges and then the choices that are open to people. It's very exciting. It's very cool. And again, it ties back into everything because it's an opportunity to hook in people the museum maybe hasn't as much appealed to in the past, and it provides that bit of it's almost like a gateway drug. Then people are like, oh, okay, that, and I get the context of all the other stuff now as well. So,
I mean, we're not getting rid of the heritage. Absolutely not. That is very much not what we're doing in this. Sometimes I hear that all you talk about is the future. I suppose we emphasise the future because it's something we don't do at the moment. But there's absolutely no plans to remove or take away. And in fact, actually, I think we're increasing the number of rail vehicles on display at the moment from the heritage collection. So they are as valuable to our future as these other new innovations are. And
it's about context. You're not hiding. You're just providing extra layers of context to these objects, the stories. Absolutely. So right, we can hear lots of physical stuff going on.
what are the physical things that are happening to the site? Also, of course, things are happening in locomotion. At some point we'll go to locomotion Wonderland, but let's stick with York. What's happening in the site in York at the moment?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned locomotion, because we are very much one museum, two sites, and particularly with the rail vehicles, actually, you can't start moving the rail vehicles without thinking about all the various places. And so, if I may, just for a minute, one of the big things we are doing at Locomotion is building a brand new building, which we're calling New Hall, and that will house just around 50 vehicles undercover, which is really great for the care of the collection, but it also enables us to redo vehicle layouts in the 3 other main spaces that we display rail vehicles, including Great Hall, Station Hall, and the Locomotion main building as well. So that's it.
Yeah, it's an enormous, complicated Tetris game, including 50 miles up to Locomotion. It's like a very complicated game of Tetris.
And all of that is being driven by this really strong curatorial principle about every collection in its right place. So where it's appropriate for a rail vehicle or another object actually to be housed more appropriately at Locomotion or in York, actually we look at that really holistically, and we make the curators make that decision.
There's some very exciting stories. We will get on to talking about what's happening here in the York campus in a second. But there are some very interesting stories that the objects, not just rail vehicles, but objects tell, particularly of some of my favourite vehicles, because I love the thing that looks the most mundane that has the biggest story, and there are a few glorious ones of those that are fitting into the right place at Locomotion. So there's some fun stuff to happen. But York.
So what's happening here? So what you can hear in the background, if the sound is being picked up, all right?
Can you hear us?
Is some very exciting base build works going on for our brand new Wonder Lab, the Bramall Gallery. So that will open in summer 2023, and that is our flagship interactive gallery. So there are other Wonder Labs at Science Museum Group museums. There's one at the Science Museum of London, another one in Bradford at the Science and Media Museum, and this is really our gallery that doesn't tell a story. It helps young people particularly, but kids of any age really, what the hows and the whys and the kind of what makes railways the way they are today. So it's about the engineering thinking that goes into railway decision making or planning or new designs for the future, and it's about giving visitors that first positive experience with engineering as a concept. It's not a subject that's taught in schools. It's something you have to kind of bridge together from a number of different disciplines. So actually the fundamental principles of physics and of maths are actually embedded in this gallery, and we've got a lot of research that's been gone into about science capital and how this gallery really kind of opens that up. So that's really exciting.
And it reminds me. So I first started getting involved in stuff in the museum for Future Engineers Week, which was ages ago, and I think elements of that seem to have been feeding into the Rail Museum version of it. Like some of those principles of how do you bring people into like young people? How do you bring them into the story and get them to engage in principles that take 10 years of expensive learning to grasp? It's a challenge.
And we've got a massive skills gap shortage in this country. So this is all about us playing our part to try and say to people, actually, these are things you could be good at. These are things that are relevant to you. Here's how they can be fun, and showing the railway connection throughout that gallery as well. Because we're still a railway museum. We're not going to make a gallery that is not relevant to railways. It's absolutely relevant to railways as well. And it looks beautiful. It's on site. I visited yesterday, had a look at some samples. It's just looking really, really beautiful. So very exciting. And we're still retaining lots of the features of the former workshop as well. So the crane and the wheel drop are all
lovely. So
the heritage of the space is absolutely integral to the feeling of the museum the feeling of the gallery particularly. That's exciting.
So then if we wander over to the other side,
on the other side, we've got 2 projects, but it looks like one project, which is Station Hall. What's happening to Station Hall? So that is a re-roofing and glazing project to begin with, and that's the majority of the works. But then there is also a really important exhibition project as well, which is following on from that, and that will reinterpret the hall. There will be there will be a vehicle layout change as well. So it's new interpretation, telling new stories, trying to bring people into that. We really want a Station Hall to celebrate the various people who work in and around the station.
It's the interface between people and the railway, and that's
absolutely. And so our guiding light for that is the station is a world unto itself. So we're trying to kind of get that sort of sense of a heavily peopled space that's really rich in the heritage. It's a lovely part of the site. It's one of our only listed buildings. Absolutely gorgeous space to be in. We very much want to keep that atmosphere.
It has always had that sort of sense of yeah.
And I suppose if anything, it's about kind of just telling more stories in that space. So better interpretation, a bit more media in there, a bit more sound, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sound is because the sound. Briefly interrupting you. Sound is a really important part of the museum experience.
Yeah.
There's disc sawing at the moment, doing all sorts of fun stuff, but actually the ambience in here is quite a unique one.
Definitely.
There is a sense, particularly when there's school kids running, and there's that energy in here,
which
is somewhat of like a station element, and so tying sound's a really important part of that railway experience.
Absolutely. So, dead spaces are not fun spaces to be in, and so I've used sound in a couple of projects prior to joining here, where actually it really kind of brought the space to life. It really activated it. So I'm a big fan of using sound carefully, because you don't want to overwhelm people. But these days, the sound design is so sophisticated, you can do a lot of clever things with it.
So that's Station Hall, and almost then the centrepiece of the work. The centrepiece of the work. You've got two elements, I suppose. You've got the Futures Gallery, which we've kind of alluded to already, and then you've got Central Hall.
Yeah.
Tell us about the interaction between these two, what the purpose of them is, how they'll tie everything together.
So the purpose of Central Hall, Central Hall includes the Futures Gallery, but Central Hall is comprised, if you like, of three main pieces. Okay. Futures Gallery on the west, the enormous drum rotunda, which is our big welcome space in the centre, and then the cafe and shop to the east, and that interfaces.
That's all of it.
And a new service kitchen as well. So what it enables us to do is, for the first time in our history, to unite the site on the level for the first time, so you get level access all the way across. If you're a wheelchair user, you use a buggy, or you don't really want to go up and downstairs, you don't have to for the first time in our history. It's really extraordinary, and it gives us that kind of museum welcome that I think is worthy of a national museum that tells such an important story. So for me, it's about creating a space that feels really lovely to be in, really, really pleasant space to be in. It's really welcoming, it's really open. You can stand in the middle of that drum and you can just look around and you can see, right, where am I going to go today? I'm going to go to Great Hall, now I'm going to go to Station Hall, now I'm going to go to Wonderlab. And
that orienteering that perhaps is, people who haven't realised this bit exists and have only got, or vice versa, they didn't realise Station Hall exists and they've only come here. Orienteering is critical, right?
We do have data to suggest that there is a fraction of people, not many, but there is a small percentage of people who don't see one of the halls because they just don't realise that you have to go through an underpass to get there. And it's not the loveliest underpass, it's open to the elements, and so really this is our chance to unite the site for the first time in its history, and it really is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. And then, as you mentioned, Futures Gallery is part of that. I've talked a little bit about kind of why it's important to prioritise the future for us. I think the other thing I really seeing already, but would love to build on this, is kind of making the modern rail industry feel that this is a home for them too. It would be amazing if all the rail employees up and down the country felt like this was their beacon, their place where they could come and that they could tell their families about what they were working on and what kind of role they played.
Absolutely.
That would be an extraordinary
and that ties into some of the opportunities about present and future that the sort of interpretation and curatorial opportunities that are created by those new spaces, that you just don't have those opportunities now, or you have things like the innovation platform create them, but actually you don't have they'll exist, and you can talk about current projects, you can have sort of shorter transient things, you can talk about current projects and then longer term stuff. It's very exciting. It's creating opportunities that the museum just doesn't have at the moment. Just doesn't have.
Absolutely.
And as I keep saying, as you say, these three elements of past, present, and future, they all tie together. Not one is at the expense of the other. It's about enhancing the whole.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that's kind of an idea. That's Vision 2025. Very exciting. As we say, Tetris of objects as well. What about after Vision 2025, and after what's the next step? What's the step beyond the current sort of plans?
It's very hard to look beyond the date of 2025 itself.
Yes.
That is such a big moment for the nation as a whole, for the museum. It will be our 50th birthday. It will be the 200th centenary of the Stockton and Darlington Railway. The nation is coming together, hopefully, for a massive celebration. So it is really hard, but we won't be doing everything by 2025, and I think that's reasonable to acknowledge. It already feels like
projects have to have they have to have a scope. Deliver scope. Can't just do everything.
But we're also changing so much. I think that's the other kind of key thing to note. There's so much that's going on. So who knows what the future will hold, but there are pieces of the story that will still need to be updated and refreshed and represented. There will definitely be elements of South Yard which will need to continue and follow on from that. I mean, South Yard's a project we haven't really spoken about very much, but actually the vision for that is to create a really, really glorious outdoor space as well, where actually even people who maybe aren't as comfortable coming into a museum and spending time in a traditional museum setting, they can still feel at home and feel like they're having a really great experience out there. And there'll be collections and play and opportunities for steam rides and
sort of interactive event, like
absolutely
audience type events.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's worth just sort of saying that we're also happening. All of our plans are happening in the context of a wider city master plan called York Central, which has been talked about for decades, but is finally
in the big railway teardrop. You look at the York map; it's not that weird teardrop shape of like sterilised land.
I call it the whale because I think
the whale. It does look a bit like a whale. You're right.
It
looks a bit like the Twitter is broken whale. Yes, you're right. That space has always been sterilised by the fact it's surrounded by a railway. York Central was supposed to unlock, and it's in the process of unlocking an enormous amount of new.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of shifting the central business district of York kind of towards the station.
Well, it adds to it. So it's got new homes, it's got a new commercial district. There's improvements happening to the rear of the station. There's Museum Square, which will lead directly into our new central hall. A new road location as well, so that cars can still drive into the city centre. So all of this is kind of taking place around us, and that's a long-term vision. There are elements that are being delivered in the next couple of years, but then the wider build-out of that will take some time, but it means we've got a brand new residential district on our doorstep as well, which is tremendously exciting for us. Hopefully visitors who feel like they can come and visit us whenever they like, and we feel like their local national museum, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. And there we go. So there's this very exciting series of opportunities and things happening. Are there any particular highlights and things that you're really excited that you're able to share with us, or is it all under wraps and you just have to be very sort of it's going to be, are there any particular features that you're very excited to reveal? You're allowed to go, yes, full stop. That's the correct answer.
Definitely yes, full stop. There are many things that we haven't yet announced to the public. I mean, I think one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is some of the artworks in Wonder Lab. So we have 2 artworks in there. We've announced 2 we're working with. One is with Pippa Hale, one is with Steve Messam, both of whom are local artists to the northeast, which is really exciting. That's going to be a really kind of game-changing opportunity for us in Wonder Lab. And beyond that, I think we're just going to have to see.
I know, I have to wait and see and come back. Charlotte, thanks so much. That's a fantastic little chat. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
And there we have it. Thanks, Charlotte, for that kind of insight into Vision 2025 and what the museum's going to be doing and what it is doing and why it's kind of in this kind of limbo at the moment. As I kind of walk here past Spirit of the South, which is, I still think, probably my favourite bit of railway artwork. It's just gorgeous. Look at it. Oh. We're actually up here, and there's George Stevenson's actual table. There's his drawing board. Here we are, looking out across the Great Hall. Over there doing the work, you can see Kenneth Grange's marvellous in top of the City 125, and you can see the OLE mast from the innovation platform, which we also looked at the start of the episode. So we had at the start of the episode talk about innovation platform and a little bit about the context of the museum and why why there's more work to be done for making this museum more than the sum of its parts rather than it being less than the sum of its parts. Then we spoke to Charlotte explaining how that's going to happen, and sort of, if you like, not the end of the journey, but certainly the kind of making some big long steps on that journey. Me waffling about, it only remains really for me to say, as ever, audio only format people, hope that was okay. That probably works all right in audio only format for once. Thanks for listening. Please put a review into your whatever listening system you use so that we can more people can listen to Rail Matter so they notice it. So please put a review into Spotify or Apple Play or whatever you use. PayPal.me/Gareth Dennis for change and abuse. Patreon.com/Gareth Dennis to support more of this happening. And of course, the Discord server, GarethDennis.co.uk/Discord for the YouTube chat that's happening, continuing to happen while I rub my hair and bash the mic. Sorry about that. Continue to happen. That chat is in the Discord server. Next week is going to be, no idea, possibly might be a live one again, but also probably not a live one, probably a pre-record. So, future Gareth, what's it going to be?
Episode 157, why does the UK find it so hard to integrate transport modes? Yes, Martha Lawrence joining us to talk about that. It should be a good one.
Marvellous, thank you, future Gareth. As I walk this way, hold the camera here, look at this. There's the channel behind me, the Eurostar. Marvellous. It only remains really, this episode will have been brought to you by something. I don't know which class of train, because I don't know which episode this will actually be. Yeah, it turns out past Gareth doesn't know very much at all. Of course, it's episode 156, so we're talking about the Class 156. A fantastic train, actually. A lot of love. And it had a terrific livery as well. It's not quite got the snaz that the later 158 had, but it's pretty good, apart from the anemic double arrow. The super sprinter running dude is a bit random. But yeah, I think the 156 is pretty good. A nice looking train. There's a buffer stop there in the front to cheer everyone up as well for the buffer stop nerds. But yeah, a resplendent 156 surrounded by the misery and vandalism of what happened to Oban Station there, being absolutely smashed to smithereens by, when they shortened it into just a horrible little nothing station. What was once glorious, now ruined. Just to sum all of that misery up, I believe there's an Austin Maestro in the background of this image as well, just to really give everyone the heebie-jeebies. Anyway, sad times. And now I'm just padding for time now, just running up the runtime just to wind you all up. No, back to present, Gareth, for 6 seconds before the episode ends. As I look out across the Great Hall, it only really remains for me to say, cheerio!